things go wrong in our bodies, it can be very difficult to figure out what's up and fix things without invasive procedures. Chemotherapy and ultrasound are two examples of methods to detect and treat various diseases. Ultrasounds are used to image organs and are painless, real-time, and non-invasive. They work using high-frequency sound waves that are transmitted from a transducer and are sent out as short pulses. These pulses are echoed from the layers of the body and picked back up by the transducer, forming an image. Chemotherapy is most commonly known in the example of cancer, where cytotoxic drugs are used to treat cancerous cells. These chemicals attack the quickly dividing cancerous cells. However, they don't target the cell specifically. This leads to negative effects such as hair loss, a reduced ability to fight infections, and fertility issues. But why risk any of that when you can use microbubbles? Microbubbles are small spheres of gas surrounded by a shell made of proteins, lipids, or polymers. They are injected intravenously. Ranging from 0.1 to 10 micrometers, they have roughly the same diameter as a red blood cell, thus allowing relatively easy transport through capillaries. They can be used for ultrasound imaging, molecular imaging, and targeted drug and gene delivery. So, how do microbubbles actually work? Well, microbubbles have acoustic properties that allow ultrasound echoes to be very clear and strong. When targeted by low acoustic pressure, the microbubbles expand and contract. As such, we use low-frequency ultrasounds for diagnostic imaging. These low-frequency ultrasound cycles also can cause a net force, pushing the bubbles away from the ultrasound source. This force can move the microbubbles onto the endothelium, which lines the walls of the blood vessels. Ultimately, this is great for targeted drug delivery. At higher acoustic pressures, the microbubbles become unstable as they oscillate and burst. This is called inertial cavitation. If the pressure of the gas core is much lower than the blood, fragmentation occurs instead. This is where the microbubbles break into daughter bubbles. It's been demonstrated that the destruction of the microbubbles leads to an increased impermeability of cell membranes, therefore increasing the uptake by the cells during drug delivery. As such, high-frequency ultrasound paired with drug-loaded microbubbles allows local delivery to specific parts of the body. Microbubbles are very unstable in aqueous media. To solve this, we add a stabilizing shell made of surfactants, lipids, proteins, polymers, or a combination of these materials. Let's explore the lipid shells in a little more detail. There are actually quite a few benefits to using lipid shells. For example, phospholipids self-assemble into a monolayer at the gas-liquid barrier, which is held together by the hydrophobic and van der Waals interactions between the tightly packed acyl chains, thus giving the shells solid properties. Their hydrophobic acyl chains face the gas, and their hydrophilic head groups face the water. Consequently, the lipid monolayer will form spontaneously around a gas bubble. The low surface tension reached by the lipid monolayer stabilizes the microbubble. The lipid molecules are held together by weak forces, without chain entanglement, meaning the shell can expand and compress its area. They are also able to reseal around the gas core following fragmentation. Despite all their benefits, microbubbles still need to be improved. Microbubbles are currently very difficult to produce identically, manipulate, and predict. One way to counteract this is to place magnetic nanoparticles inside the microbubbles and apply an external magnet, thus directing them around the body. With the development of microbubbles, the future of clinical care looks bright and bubbly!